He built a £1 million empire with fast cars and fake fame, then vanished into the underworld. This is the rise and brutal fall of Jamie Oldroyd. In this video, we take you inside one of the UK's most shocking criminal operations. A man once surrounded by flashy cars and piles of cash would soon find himself caught in a violent spiral of betrayal and revenge. This is the story of Jamie Oldroyd, a luxury car dealer from Warrington who quietly built a massive illegal network, using his business as a cover for large-scale drug activity. But everything changed when police intercepted a huge shipment worth over £20 million, the biggest land drug bust ever made on British soil. That moment sparked a storm of violence, fires, threats, and deadly power struggles within the criminal world. We'll reveal how the Tobin brothers, key players in this network, lived double lives, pretending to be normal family men while secretly moving massive supplies. They even had a former UFC fighter act as their protector. We'll show you how the gang used secret communication apps, road convoys, and huge amounts of cash, leading to one of the most high-tech police takedowns in UK history. The ending? Official safety warnings, destroyed families, and a total of 120 years behind bars. But this isn't just about illegal trade, it's about ego, control, fear, and what happens when someone tries to rise too fast in the criminal world. Jamie Oldroyd was raised in the Burwood area of Warrington. As a teen, he quickly gained a reputation for being loud and getting into trouble. In 2008, when he was just 18, he ended up in jail after a reckless act where he shot a young girl with a paintball gun as a joke. That landed him a year in prison, and it became the first of many legal problems. By 2015, he was back inside, this time for working in the illegal cannabis trade with his younger brother, William Wright. The police already had their eyes on him. His release was delayed too. He was caught trying to hide a mobile phone in a prison toilet. After getting out, Oldroyd launched a car rental company called ProEase on Common Lane in Colchester, claiming to offer luxury rides like Audis, Jaguars, and Mercedes. Though there was no sign of real income, Oldroyd flaunted a rich lifestyle, and social media influencers like Sam Thompson, Miles Barnett, and Frankie Foster promoted his services. But something didn't add up. His behavior, the expensive cars, the stacks of money, and his cocky attitude, raised eyebrows in the community. People started talking. How could someone his age afford all this? Quietly, the police were already building a case. Instead of laying low, Oldroyd kept drawing attention to himself in public. Flashy rides. Bundles of money. Showing off everywhere he went. One key piece of evidence came from a video found on Islam Graina's phone. It showed Oldroyd, Graina, and Toland Pchur sitting around a table stacked with £150,000 in cash, enough to need counting machines. This was no side hustle, this was big business. And all of it was masked behind a fake company. Oldroyd's fleet wasn't just luxury cars, one of his toys was a £30,000 dune buggy. He once recklessly drove it near a school and even hit a pedestrian on the pavement, earning a conviction for dangerous driving. His business, behind the scenes, was falling apart financially. The money wasn't real, it came from drugs. And now the cracks were starting to show. As police dug deeper, they uncovered a larger network around Oldroyd, trusted individuals managing hidden houses, moving products, and keeping things running. One of them was Lewis Johnson, just 21, who ran a storage house from Liverpool Road. There, the illegal goods were stored, prepared, and shipped out. Names like Islam Graina, Talon Pia, and Paul Ferrolo appeared, each playing a part in sourcing or moving the supply. In April 2018, police saw Ferrolo hand a brick of the substance to Graina in a pub parking lot. Graina, following orders from Pia, who owned a nearby car wash, was supposed to deliver it to Middlesbrough. But he was stopped in Halifax. Hidden in his bag, beneath the seat, was the entire load. Police took his phone, and found that same video showing the group counting huge amounts of cash. Another stash house was found on Biggin Court in July 2018. Police raided the place and recovered over £125,000 worth of illegal goods, along with tools for preparing and packaging. Oldroyd's group had deep access to supply, but now law enforcement had begun striking. One morning, two vehicles, a VW van and a Nissan, were driving north on the M6. Hidden inside was a massive load, 186 kilograms of top-grade material, freshly brought in from Kent. The team in charge included Jamie Simpson, Claire Smith, Andrew Daniels, and Dean Brettle. Their mission was simple: deliver the shipment safely to Warrington, where it would be distributed for massive profits. But what they didn't know was they were already being followed. As they neared Junction 19, police moved in. Unmarked police vehicles began to surround the convoy. The motorway was quickly shut down. Officers boxed in the van from every side while a police helicopter hovered above, capturing the entire operation from the sky. Armed officers moved in fast. One man, wearing a white t-shirt, was pulled from the van and pinned face down on the ground. There was no way out. When officers opened the van, they discovered specially designed compartments hidden under the floor. Inside, a massive stash of illegal goods, estimated street value, £20 million. This wasn't just a random arrest. It became the largest land-based seizure of its kind in UK history. The breakthrough came as part of a police investigation called Operation Dreadnought, and it confirmed suspicions that Jamie Oldroyd's crew wasn't just local, they were operating at a national level. Even though Oldroyd wasn't in the van, police linked him to Jamie Simpson, who was one of the men caught during the bust. Authorities described Simpson as a close friend and associate of Oldroyd. Both were believed to be key players in a much wider criminal network being watched under Operation Dreadnought. The aftermath of this operation was devastating. The massive loss destroyed a shipment that was meant to fuel multiple street-level operations. It crippled the gang's finances and sent waves of panic from street-level sellers all the way up to powerful suppliers in places like Merseyside. But the damage didn't stop there. The collapse of that one delivery deal led to the financial breakdown of several organized groups almost overnight. Jamie Oldroyd personally lost millions in that raid. According to some sources, the debt was so high that his name was added to a criminal hit list. Then the real chaos began. Attacks on businesses tied to Oldroyd and his family started happening one after another. In July 2019, a bridal shop on Common Lane, owned by Oldroyd's mother and once opened by model Katie Price, had its windows smashed by masked men. A month later, shots were fired at Oldroyd's parents' house in Colch. And in November, another family-run business, Dutch Lux, a candy store owned by his brother William Wright, was firebombed in a deliberate act of arson. It didn't stop there. One of Oldroyd's car storage compounds was also targeted. Vandals broke in and wrecked several luxury cars. The message was loud and clear: this wasn't about law enforcement, it was revenge from rival criminals. Things got so dangerous that police had to issue formal warnings known as Osman letters to Oldroyd and his family. These are given when there is credible intelligence of a real risk to someone's life. Behind the scenes, Oldroyd believed the threats were coming from Merseyside. Privately, he blamed Paul Ferrolo, someone he had once worked with, a man connected to major underworld figures in the area. By this point, Oldroyd was cornered from every direction, his finances were destroyed, legal pressure was rising, and now his life was at risk. The man who once showed off piles of cash was now barely holding on. That £20 million bust on the M6 had done more than stop one shipment, it had shattered a massive network operating across the northwest. At the heart of this supply chain were Alan and John Tobin, two major dealers quietly running things from towns like Whitney and Prescott. To outsiders, the Tobin brothers seemed ordinary. Alan even had a job as a mental health nurse. But behind closed doors, they were moving huge amounts of cocaine, heroin, ketamine, and cannabis. They used custom-modified vehicles with hidden panels and communicated using encrypted phones. On encrypted messaging platforms, Alan used the name Cape Rocket, and John was known as Slight Drake. It was the Tobins who arranged the drug load that got seized on the M6, and the loss hit them hard. Suddenly, they were under massive pressure from those higher up the chain. In early 2020, violence followed. John Tobin was shot outside his home in Prescott. He survived the attack, but it showed just how serious things had become. Court documents later revealed the brothers were so desperate for money, they started selling personal items. In a last-ditch effort to survive, they also began leaking information to other criminals, trying to either protect themselves or gain favor with bigger players. The Tobin brothers weren't just suppliers anymore. After the M6 loss, they became active participants in a deeper power struggle. One that would soon spiral into real violence on the streets of Warrington. By early 2020, this wasn't about money anymore, it was about staying alive. With pressure mounting from dangerous suppliers, the Tobins started treating information as currency. Using encrypted phones, they made contact with a gang member in Manchester who was planning targeted attacks on rivals. His main targets: Liam Byrne Jr. and Liam Byrne Sr., both connected to the Byrne-Cullen drug group. The Manchester gang member messaged the Tobins saying he was ready to act, all he needed was their address. Alan Tobin replied, admitting he was under heavy pressure too, and agreed to help. He promised to pass on the information. Soon after, Alan sent over images of the Byrnes, along with their home addresses, satellite images of their houses, and car registration numbers. To gather all this, he asked for help from an associate known by the username Nova Bear, who was tied to former UFC fighter Robbie Broughton. There's no proof Broughton knew what the info was for, and he was never charged. Alan followed up with his brother John, confirming that Rob had provided the address. John said he'd already passed it along. He even agreed to go on a drive-by scouting trip. While John never said he was aware of a planned shooting, the pieces were clearly in place. On the night of April 24, 2020, the plan was executed. In a quiet neighborhood on Poplars Avenue in Warrington, a man dressed like a pizza delivery driver rang the doorbell of a semi-detached home. David Barnes answered the door. He wasn't part of any criminal group. He was the stepfather of Liam Byrne Jr. Without warning, the gunman, later identified as Aaron Bretherton, fired 4 shots. One bullet shattered Barnes' lower leg. Bretherton ran to a getaway van where Anthony Morris and Lewis Fitzpatrick were waiting. As they drove off, Morris searched online for news about the shooting. David Barnes survived, but the aftermath was severe. He suffered from a stroke, deep trauma, and lifelong injuries. He had nothing to do with the conflict, he was simply caught in the crossfire of a violent turf war. That same night, a second attacker, also pretending to be a delivery driver, knocked on a different door on Sinclair Avenue. This home was tied to Charlie Cullen, the father of Layan and Anthony Cullen. But Charlie Cullen no longer lived at the address. When the man pretending to deliver pizza arrived, the current tenants explained this. The attacker then simply turned around and left. The message was obvious, this wasn't random. It was a targeted operation, powered by inside knowledge and deep gang rivalry. Shortly after the shooting on Poplars Avenue, the Manchester gang member messaged Alan Tobin with a screenshot of the news report. His message was short, "Keep your head down." Alan replied with, "Let's keep this between us." But their secret talks didn't stop there. The conversation shifted to a new focus, Jamie Oldroyd, whom the Tobins blamed for their massive financial crash. The Manchester man asked, "Where's Alvin locked up?" Alvin was a nickname for Oldroyd, given because some thought he looked like a chipmunk. Alan checked with John and responded, "He's the reason we're broke. If something happens to him, I won't forget it. I owe you one." The reply from the Manchester contact was chilling. "I'll take his eyes. I'll deal with his mom too." Once seen living large, posing next to stacks of cash, Jamie Oldroyd was now being hunted. In court, it was revealed he owed Alan Tobin £1.5 million, the amount lost in the M6 drug bust. By handing over info about the Burns and Oldroyd, the Tobins had crossed a dangerous line. They weren't just suppliers anymore. They had become players in a deadly game, using names and locations as bargaining chips, for protection or revenge. The violence in Warrington was a turning point. What followed was the unraveling of several major criminal organizations, brought down by encrypted phone evidence, long-term surveillance, and synchronized police raids. The first arrests were the ones connected to the shooting of David Barnes. In May 2020, police arrested Aaron Bretherton, the shooter. They also detained Anthony Morris, who drove the getaway van, and Lewis Fitzpatrick, who had helped supply the weapon. At Bretherton's flat in Everton, officers recovered a Glock pistol, 8 rounds of live ammo, a loaded magazine, a smoke grenade, and about £5,000 in cash. Hidden in strange spots like a kitchen vent and a bathroom fan, more ammunition and gunpowder residue were found. Over at Fitzpatrick's place in Norris Green, police seized another £4,000 in cash. Although the gun found wasn't the one used in the Barnes attack, encrypted messages confirmed that days before the shooting, the group had collected another weapon, likely the one used, from a shed in the Croxteth area. It had been soaked in petrol to make tracing harder. Aaron Bretherton was sentenced to 22 years in prison, with an extra 5 years of extended supervision, for his role in the violent conspiracy. While the Tobins were being brought to justice, Jamie Oldroyd's empire was also falling apart. Step by step, one raid after another, the entire operation was exposed. Though he hadn't been caught physically moving drugs, Operation Dreadnought built a strong case. Using surveillance footage, phone analysis, and forensic proof, investigators found Oldroyd's DNA on drug packages worth over £125,000. He was also seen managing logistics, moving between safe locations, and switching between 17 different high-performance cars, all registered under fake names or tied to his vehicle leasing company, ProEase. It became clear that Oldroyd was leading a nationwide drug operation, working with several key associates, including Jamie Simpson, who had been caught in the infamous M6 convoy. In court, Oldroyd was convicted of conspiracy to supply cocaine and sentenced to 14 years and 3 months in prison. But Oldroyd didn't work alone. He had a team: drivers, stash house managers, runners, and coordinators. In time, 21 members of the group were arrested and sentenced. 4 others were still awaiting trial. Together, the gang received a total of over 120 years in prison time. Police also recovered a large number of valuable items bought with money from Oldroyd's criminal empire: luxury cars, designer watches, expensive sneakers, high-end clothes, and over £150,000 in cash, filmed on mobile phones seized from the group. This is how it all ended. What began as a car rental business in Warrington ended in firebombed storefronts, violent shootings, and decades behind bars. Jamie Oldroyd built a lifestyle on luxury vehicles, money, and illegal goods, polished enough to seem untouchable. But one mistake, a single, £20 million bust on the M6, brought it all crashing down. From glamorous endorsements and social media fame, to being hunted, threatened, and imprisoned. His name whispered on encrypted messages. His family living in fear. His empire destroyed from the inside out. The Tobin brothers ran their empire like a company: encrypted devices, modified vehicles, cover businesses. But when their product vanished, so did the loyalty. They turned to betrayal and violence, and they too fell hard. Even innocent people, like David Barnes, who had nothing to do with the world of gangs, ended up caught in the crossfire. Shot at his own front door. Forever changed. Because this is the reality of organized crime in the UK. It always comes back, whether you're the one driving the van, counting the cash, or showing off in a room full of money. When it falls apart, it falls fast, and no one escapes clean. For more true crime breakdowns, hit like and subscribe to our channel. Stay sharp, and stay safe, until the next story. Easy money comes with a heavy price. At first glance, Jamie Oldroyd seemed like he had it all: luxury cars, celebrity friends, and stacks of cash. To many, he looked successful. But beneath all that shine was a world built on lies, danger, and illegal deals. He didn't earn his money through hard work or talent. He built his empire by cheating the system, hurting communities, and risking other people's lives. And in the end, it all came crashing down. What's the lesson? Shortcuts to success often lead to long-term destruction. Fast money may feel exciting, but it always comes with consequences. Jamie lost not just his wealth, but his freedom, his reputation, and even the safety of his family. People he trusted turned against him. His businesses were attacked. His name was added to a hit list. The very lifestyle he used to brag about became the reason he had to look over his shoulder every day. Real success is built on patience, discipline, and clean effort. It takes time, but it lasts. The flashy life may attract attention, but it doesn't bring peace. Jamie's story is a warning to anyone thinking of cutting corners to get rich: you might gain fast, but you lose even faster. His downfall wasn't because of one mistake, it was a chain of choices made for the wrong reasons. If you ever feel tempted by fast money or illegal paths, remember Jamie Oldroyd. His story teaches us that living large without limits eventually leads to losing everything. Choose growth over greed. It may be slower, but it's real, and it's worth it. White heavy checkmark lesson 2: loyalty disappears when the money runs out. In the beginning, Jamie Oldroyd was surrounded by people, friends, business partners, even influencers promoting his company. But when things went wrong, those same people vanished. Some betrayed him. Others leaked his location. A few even plotted against him. And the ones he once trusted became part of the reason he ended up behind bars. What's the lesson here? If your relationships are built on money, they will fall apart when the money disappears. That's not real loyalty, it's just business. And when your business is illegal, people will turn on you to save themselves. The Tobin brothers, who once ran a major part of the drug network, ended up trading names and addresses just to protect themselves. Even within a criminal empire, there's no honor. Just survival. We all want strong relationships, friends we can trust, partners who stand by us. But loyalty built on power, fear, or profit is fake. True loyalty comes from shared values, mutual respect, and honesty. Jamie never had that. His empire was built on deals, not bonds. And when things got tough, the people around him didn't support him, they exposed him. So what should you learn from this? Build your circle wisely. Don't confuse company with loyalty. And never believe that people who cheer you on when you're rich will stick around when you're down. If someone stands with you when you have nothing, that's real. The rest? Just noise. Jamie's story isn't just about crime. It's about relationships, trust, and what really matters when everything falls apart. Don't wait until you're broken to find out who's real. Surround yourself with people who lift you, not just those who benefit from you.